our democracies, and even our world, we must also be willing to look within ourselves. Change does not begin somewhere else, sometime else, with someone else. It begins with us, it begins with me. And that's an idea that we share at Initiatives of Change so often, remembering the quote that, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Lasting transformation requires both inner and outer change. Our next speaker has dedicated much of her work to exploring precisely this connection. It's my pleasure to invite Professor Christine Wamsler, professor at the Lund University Center for Sustainability Studies. Christine will help us explore the vital relationship between inner and outer transformation. The floor is yours, Christine. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Over the next 15 minutes, I will give you a glimpse into the scientific field that explores the link between inner and outer transformation in accelerating sustainability. More specifically, I will focus on two questions. What role does inner development play in tackling today's polycrisis? And what evidence do we have so far? I have summarized my answers to these questions into three key messages. The first is that current policy approaches are simply insufficient. In fact, we are living through a global polycrisis, including ecological collapse, a worldwide mental health crisis, polarization, inequality, and political turmoil. Threats that reinforce and amplify each other. It's paradoxical. Parts of the world may look like the utopia our grandparents dreamed of. But the same progress has also brought significant unintended consequences. A central reason is that we often understand threats like climate change as external crises. And because the way we define problems shapes how we respond, we tend to rely primarily on external technical solutions. To make matters worse, current policy approaches are based on the knowledge deficit model. The idea that simply giving people more information will solve our problems. But research has shown that this is not true. Finally, there is a gap between the work of professionals who focus on sustainability and the SDGs on the one hand, and those who focus on inner personal development and well-being on the other. As a result, while our professional and technical skills to address today's polycrisis have grown exponentially, our capacity to use them wisely has not. Gustav Spell, former chair of the United Nations Development Group, expressed the situation in the following way. I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought with 30 years of good science we could address those problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. The second key message is that a new scientific field has emerged to address these gaps. In recent years, a rapidly growing field has emerged that explores the connection between inner development, behavior, culture, and systems transformation. It's called inner transformation for sustainability. It has generated knowledge and evidence that is increasingly informing key societal actors, governmental organizations, policy institutions, as well as UN global assessment reports, which now explicitly emphasize inner transformation as essential for lasting change. This is a groundbreaking development. Work in this field has shown that today's polycrisis is a reflection of an inner human crisis, rooted in a profound separation or alienation from ourselves, from each other, and from nature. This crisis stems from the modern dominant social paradigm, which assumes that our thinking mind is separate from our feelings and bodies, that we are separate from one another, that some humans are superior to others, and that humanity is separate from and superior to the rest of the natural world. This paradigm of separation has become deeply ingrained in our mindsets, in our behaviors, our culture, and the institutional and political structures that many of us grew up with. In everyday life, it manifests in a series of what I call isms. Individualism, materialism, consumerism, racism, elitism, and extractivism. They shape the rules of the game we live by, trapping us in patterns of optimizing for self-interest and short-term gains. As a result, we find ourselves relentlessly exploiting and exhausting ourselves, others, and the planet. This also means that individual healing will not get us out of this. What we need instead is a deeper transformation that addresses the inner roots of today's polycrisis. Accordingly, research has shown that our inner dimensions, meaning our individual and collective beliefs, values, worldviews, and the inner capacities that shape these, are the most powerful leverage points for change. Our inner lives must therefore be part of the solution, not only our intellectual and technical knowledge. Or in the words of Antonio Guterres, we cannot solve our biggest problems if we do not come together. It's not only about institutions or processes, it is, in the first instance, about our mindsets. But how do we move from these insights into action? This brings us to the third key message. Over the past decade, research on inner transformation for sustainability has provided growing scientific knowledge that can help to accelerate action. If we trace today's polycrisis through a culturally entrenched story of separation, as I explained earlier, we can clearly see the potential role of inner development in accelerating action. It invites us to relate to ourselves, to others, and to the world in more reflective, more compassionate, and more ethical ways. Instead of exploiting and exhausting ourselves, others, and the planet, inner development can help us reconnect and guide us toward a more caring society. Practices for inner development are not a panacea, yet integrative approaches can increase resilience by helping us face challenging experiences, thoughts, and emotions more effectively. Support more sustainable behavior and decision-making by overcoming mental habits and biases, short-term and polarized thinking. Nurture more sustainable paradigms and cultures through awareness of our common humanity and interconnectedness. And foster engagement and systemic policy integration transformation for sustainability through a deeper understanding of our role within broader systems. Put together, there's scientific evidence that inner development can provide an essential foundation for transformative change. It addresses the roots of today's polycrisis, the deep alienation from ourselves, from each other, and from nature, which is woven into our mindsets, including our thoughts and emotions, our behaviors, our cultures, and institutions. In this way, inner development can act both as a form of resistance to the mainstream and, at the same time, foster sustained, meaningful action toward a better future. This is crucial because we are currently in a situation where we risk a breakdown loop, where the state of the world creates negative states of mind, leading to antisocial citizenship behavior, which then worsen the state of the world or prevent us from acting to improve it. We need to reverse that cycle and create a breakthrough loop. What is so powerful about this statement from Alex Evans is that it directly links inner states, mindsets, and the condition of democracy. In this context, the growing scientific knowledge on inner transformation for sustainability supports important shifts. Rather than seeing people as objects to be changed, it reframes them as agents of change. The polycrisis as a relational crisis, and therefore centers the quality of relationships as key to challenging unsustainable power structures, norms, cultures, behaviors, and mindsets. In doing so, it helps shifting us from denial and anxiety toward hope, agency, and what I call triple well-being: individual, collective, and planetary well-being. Related policy applications have been driven by the growing evidence base and, in turn, have strengthened it. Examples include policy reports from key stakeholders and global UN assessment reports on sustainable development, climate change, and biodiversity. In some of these reports, our work on inner transformation has even become a central component of their theories of change. This is illustrated here in the model from the latest Global Biodiversity Assessment Report. In this model, individual and collective mindsets are placed at the center as key drivers of transformative change. Other policy applications include the growing number of leadership courses that link inner and outer transformation for parliamentarians, UN staff, NGO and business leaders, climate activists, and others. Our evaluations of these courses show significant positive outcomes, including reduced climate anxiety, as well as increased resilience, connection, hope, agency, and engagement across all levels. UNDP and its Conscious Food Systems Alliance, COFSA, are examples of organizations we have engaged with through policy applications, such as co-creation of research and policy reports, leadership training, and other activities that nurture communities of practice and fields of change. A key milestone in this process will be the first Global Conscious Food System Summit in Bhutan in September this year. Another example of policy applications linking inner development, well-being, and sustainability through long-term cooperation is our work with the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner. This includes the creation of the United Present Hub, which brings together policy work leadership training for UN staff, and communities of change supported by activities and events such as World Meditation Day. It also entails an annual report that in 2027 will focus on inner transformation and sustainability. And with this, I hope that I have given you a glimpse into the field of inner transformation for sustainability, the role of inner development in addressing today's polycrisis, related evidence and applications, and a sense of hope that meaningful change is possible. I hope this conference will help us advance this work and contribute to building a more sustainable story together. Thank you very much.